In the 90s, one of these guys was Superman, the other Hercules. So naturally, we put them both on the same show. Dean Cain, Kevin Sorbo. You better hold on. I'm going to. All right, hello, America. Welcome to Unclassified. I'm Greg Stevens, and if you were watching television in the 1990s, there's a pretty good chance tonight's guests were on your television. They were on ours. Dean Cain took on the role of Clark Kent and Superman in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. And Kevin Sorbo picked up the sword and embarked on a few legendary journeys as Hercules. Two heroes, two enormously successful television franchises, and somehow it took us until now to figure out how to get them both together for this program. Now, I should point out that both of these guys have done a whole lot of things since the 90s. They've made movies, produced projects, advocated for causes they believe in, and spoken openly about faith and culture. So we're going to have some fun tonight, but I also want to talk about something underneath those fictional heroes both men became famous for portraying, and that's the conviction they both have. Because eventually, every generation has to decide what it believes. And right now, ours is at a crossroads. What are you willing to stand for? Kevin Sorbo is an actor, director, producer, and author who's built an extensive film and television career while becoming an increasingly outspoken voice for faith, family, and traditional values. Dean Cain is an actor, producer, and television host who became one of the defining supermen of a generation. He's gone on to appear in nearly 200 film and television projects, has been an outspoken advocate on issues ranging from faith and culture to law enforcement and anti-Semitism. 2014, their careers crossed in a movie that became a landmark in modern faith-based filmmaking. It's called God's Not Dead. Now, interestingly, they both played men on the other sides of the film's central message. Kevin is Professor Radisson, Dean is Mark Shelley. Kevin Sorbo, Dean Cain, I could do your intro for another 20 minutes. Welcome to Unclassified.
Thank you so much.
Okay, gentlemen, I have to start here. Hercules and Superman are sitting at the same table with me tonight. Kevin, Dean, who wins if you go against each other?
You know, that's interesting because, you know, Hercules is kind of an alien as well in a way, but he's still half mortal. So, I mean, to be honest, I got to give the nod to Superman. You know, it'd be a good battle, but I think Superman would win.
Dean, you agree?
Because he's half. There's not a whole lot of mortalness in Kal-El in Superman, so no. I'm going to go with Kevin on that one. That's the thing we will agree on the most. You know, Kevin and I were the last two actors up for that role of Superman, by the way.
Yep. I didn't know that. Did not know that.
It was he and I.
All right, so you both became.
It was. Initially, I thought I had it, and they said no, we're going to go with Dean Cain, and he made the better Superman anyway. I thought I made a pretty good Clark Kent, but he looks more like Superman physically and just everything, you know. But it was 3 months later when I got Hercules. So, you know, things work out the way they're supposed to. It's a frustrating business to begin with because it deals with nothing but rejection anyway. And, you know, but 7 years in New Zealand was a wonderful chapter in my life. And I'm sure Dean has fond memories of filming as well. I mean, we were a lot younger and stronger back then. And I miss those days occasionally.
Okay, so let me ask both of you, because you brought up something about rejection right there. And a lot of people struggle with that, especially in the social media generation that we're in today. And you hear it, the anxiety level of young people and being accepted and rejected. How do you overcome that kind of rejection? Because I remember once early on in my career, I had a news director that just absolutely despised me. How do you guys do it?
Well, I think sports is a great way to learn a lot of that too. And Kevin and I are both athletes and been running around. I played football forever. And I don't care how big and strong and fast you are, someone else is going to be bigger, faster, and stronger, and they're going to knock you down. You better get back up. It's the same concept, I think, in life. You know, you're always going to be getting judged by other people, and you need to be comfortable within yourself and who you are and what you believe. If that's the case, and you know, I had a very strong family as well, had their full support. So I've never been afraid to try anything, do anything, be critiqued about anything, because I had that strong family connection and that support. And so I feared no failure, and I think that's really important, and learn from your mistakes.
Right, Kevin, dealing with rejection.
A strong foundation for me as well, for my mom and dad. Even though I grew up in the liberal state of Minnesota, they were Walter Mondale, Hubert Humphrey Democrats, but those guys would be conservative today, looking at where the Democrat Party's moved to. But my parents were just always going after, saying, look, for not only in athletics, but also in school, since my dad was a school teacher, was push, push, push. But a big thing that hit me when to college, for 2 years, I caddied at a private country club. And I would ask all these guys, here I'm 18, 19 years old, and I asked all these guys that were successful, wealthy guys. I mean, we knew we didn't have money with 5 kids and a teacher's salary at home with my parents, but we never felt without. But these guys, I said, hey, how did you become successful? Every single one of them said, I failed, Kevin, and then I failed again, and then I failed again some more. So I tell people I'm a 13-year overnight success. I got to a point in Hollywood that I just said, if they don't cast me, it's their loss. In the last 3 years leading up to Hercules, I actually was so much more confident going in. It just fueled the fire for me. I just use it. They just get out there and say it's their loss. I'm gonna keep busting my butt and just make till something happens.
That's beautiful.
You got to believe in yourself.
Absolutely. Now, Dean, let me start with you on this. There's something interesting about 90s culture in retrospect. Those shows could be heroic, they could be earnest, optimistic, and nobody seemed embarrassed by that. Even could be a little bit patriotic. Have we become too cynical culturally to simply let heroes be heroes anymore?
Well, I think it's a ebb and flow. I think sometimes we have, we're in sort of cycles, if you will. And right now we've been in this sort of anti-hero cycle, which I don't like at all, and this anti-patriotism cycle. And I think it's driven largely by a lot of people in the regular media, certainly by foreign actors who don't like what we're doing. But they've been effective because people are reacting to this peer pressure and that sort of thing. And I think it's unfortunate, but I do think it's an ebb and flow. And I think we're getting back to movies like, Top Gun Maverick that bring people to the box office, that aren't afraid to be patriotic. I think we're headed back in that direction. I sure hope so. Things are changing rapidly in this business and in this world. And I think the values that we stand for as Americans and how we were founded are integral to what we're doing in this world. And I think people are going to start to rediscover them, if you will.
Kevin, could Hercules be aired today? Have we changed that much?
Well, they probably make me a transgender now. I mean, I don't know. It's so crazy what's been going on with that world. But I don't think they do it the same way. I really don't. I agree with Dean that I think there's a tide that's starting to turn now. I think people are getting kind of sick of the woke world. There's still cancel culture out there. There's still wokeness out there. And they're a bunch of, I just look at them as really little 7th grade mean girls. It's so ridiculous because Dean is just like God. We don't harbor that anger and hatred to somebody who has a different point of view. I could care less. I work with gay people all the time. I could care less. I think just people are just getting tired of being force-fed all this stuff and this craziness. When they gave Pride a month, I just laughed at that because I said, Pride, give them a day, fine. Who deserves a month? Our veterans do. Not the pride, because I'm still trying. What are they proud of? That they're the first deadly sin? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out too. But the reality is, things are changing. I just think they would be different. And God bless the writers on Hercules. I'll tell you, I had something to do with some of the messaging and some of the things like that. But they wrote very good moral messages in a mythological show. It wasn't biblical, but they put really good values into Hercules. And the lessons that people learned, I can prove that from the emails and letters we got through the years. So they wouldn't do that today, I don't think. I mean, things have changed, but things are getting better. There's some really good shows out there that are gaining more and more traction. I look at Yellowstone and the offshoots of that. Those are really great shows, and they're successful because it's bringing a lot more of the conservative crowd that wants to have good programming that has better messaging. Whether the violence is in there or not, they still have good messaging in there.
Now, you've both been outspoken about your beliefs and your political opinions. You've both taken heat for it. Was there ever a moment when somebody in Hollywood essentially told you, if you keep saying these things, it's going to cost you, you're not going to be able to work anymore? Let's start with you, Dean, on that, and then go to Kevin.
About 1,000 times. I've had, people quit on shows. I've had, in Hollywood, they don't tell you straight up to your face, hey, this is why. It's just you don't get phone calls returned. You don't get calls in. You don't get, everything changes. And then you hear through the grapevine, oh, he's that crazy right-wing guy. Why? Because I stand for truth, justice, and the American way, because I have a cross behind me, because, I don't think that men should play in women's sports, things of that nature. I think we should enforce our immigration laws, things like that. Suddenly people go bananas and you become, again, like Kevin's parents, like my parents, my parents were Democrats growing up. At least my dad was. My mom was a military brat, so she was kind of tougher for her. But they would be considered far right wing today, which is craziness. So the left has moved so far left, it's crazy. But people in Hollywood just don't tell you to your face, hey, we're not going to hire you because we think you're this right wing person or whatever. But they'll just stop returning phone calls, and I face that. They try to get me fired off of several TV shows. The crowd, the cancel crowd, it didn't work. And I think we're going to look back at this time and say, what a ridiculous thing to do.
Kevin, what about you? You experience the same?
I actually got told to my face. My manager and agent about a dozen years ago called me to the office. They're never in. My manager's in Studio City. My agent was over in Beverly Hills. They never crossed that mountain and come over. This time they called me up, and they were in the same office together. And I walked in. I said, "What is this? An intervention?" I'm ground zero for the cancel culture. I really am, because it was a dozen years ago. They said nobody wants to work with you anymore. Studios don't want to deal with you. All that. And I go, why? Because the things you're posting and saying on the internet. And I go, oh, you mean the truth? You guys have a problem with the truth? I mean, it's crazy to me. But that's what they do. And look at Dean and we're blacklisted from so many of these autograph shows. There are fans that want to see us. Every time we've been to autograph shows, people that don't want autographs from us way before this, they didn't come to the table. That's fine. But we do just fine, with the fans that come to the table. And Dean probably gets the same thing I did, the few they still invite us to, when families will come up and say, we came here because of you. We just wanted to meet you. We don't care about these other people. The last one I did, big one, was in Lexington a year ago. And I had 5 actors who I don't know, because I don't watch a lot of TV from what's going on out there right now. I don't know who they were, but they're on series. And they say, hey, man, thanks for being a voice for us. And I get that every movie set I go on nowadays, and people are grateful that at least we're speaking up. But I say, be a voice for yourself. Stop letting fear rule your life, because fear is government's favorite weapon, as we know.
No, it's true. All right, Kevin, before we move on here, there's another project you're involved with that I want our audience to see. The film takes us back to one of the most familiar moments in Scripture, the Last Supper, but examines it through the relationship between Jesus and Judas. And the film asks some pretty challenging questions about what that night means for Christians living today. Let's take a look at it. Here it is.
This world has taken everything but the breath in my lungs. And now it seeks to claim the one thing I have left.
Judas. Judas. Come in. I've been waiting for you.
If he really was a prophet, he would know what kind of woman is touching him.
We are to meet tonight in a secret place. I can tell you where he'll be.
I will lay down my life for your sake. I will die for you.
Wow, Kevin, that's powerful stuff. We're going to let that continue to play. Jesus knew exactly who was sitting at that table with him. He knew what Judas was all about to do. What do you think that moment teaches Christians about loving people, standing for truth, and even dealing with those who may oppose or betray us?
Well, first of all, I got to give a nod to Brent Miller and his company, Ingenuity Films. They do great stuff. I did a documentary with them 4 years ago called Before the Wrath, deals with the second coming. It was the #1 documentary on Amazon for 5 months. This one's coming out. This is called Eating with the Enemy, obviously about the Last Supper. And it's going to be in theaters in October, and of course come out streaming after that. But it's an amazing story they do such a great job. You saw the class. I mean, that's just as good as any chosen episode, but it's mixed with scholars of today to talk about that and talk about what the Bible says in dealing with that. And it was just, I'm just blessed to be part of what these guys do. They do such a wonderful work. I did another one with them that's out right now with John Lennox. It's called Standing Against the World. And John Lennox is an apologist who's debated all the great atheists who were like Dawkins and Singer and Hitchens. I spent 3 months in Oxford, England with them, 2 weeks in Israel. Mm-hmm. And I call it Apologetics for Dummies Like Me. So I recommend that one. That's streaming right now. And I think people will love that one as well. So Kevin, they do really good stuff, these guys.
All right, gentlemen, we got to take a break. They're telling me in my ear. So when we come back, We're heading toward a consequential midterm election. The country is deeply divided. Millions of Christians have a choice to make. Do I engage? Do I sit this out? Kevin and Dean have some thoughts about it. We're going to talk to them when Unclassified continues right after this.
The Victory Channel is committed to bringing you the Word of God through every available voice. That's why you can access this 24/7 channel through our many outlets, such as GoVictory.com, DirecTV, Dish, Roku, YouTube, Rumble, our Go Victory app, Apple TV, and many more. Find your perfect connection when you visit GoVictory.com/watch now. And thank you for watching the Victory Channel.
Every day, more noise, more questions, more uncertainty. But truth never changes. On Victory News Tonight, we bring you the headlines with clarity and confidence. On Unclassified, we go deeper, exploring the truth beyond the headlines. And through this election season, America stands, following our story as a nation at its crossroads. Join the Victory News team, weekdays and throughout this election season, only on Victory.
All right, welcome back. Listen, if you're watching on social media, do me a favor, like and share, put your comments in at the bottom. We'll put them on the big, awesome monitor behind me later on. Dean Cain and Kevin Sorbo are both with us tonight. Neither of you guys have been particularly shy about where you stand on cultural issues. And now that America's approaching another major election, listen, we're a little over 2 months away from the midterms. I want to spend the rest of our time talking not to you about your roles you played years ago, not as Hollywood personalities, but as American citizens. You both traveled this country. You meet people outside Hollywood, outside the Washington bubbles. Let me begin with you, Dean. What do you think the average American is concerned about right now?
Well, I think most people are talking about the affordability situation, and I think we're well on the road to recovery in that sense. So I think people are talking about how the kitchen table issues. It's always the economy, stupid. That's the saying from Bill Clinton and beyond and beyond and before. I think that I think it's a very, very important election. And you always say, this is the most important election of our lifetime and this, that. I think 2024 was hugely important. But outside of that, I think in order to sort of put together this, where I think we're absolutely on the right track, but in order to be able to put this and have the actual golden age of America come into existence here, I think the Republicans need to win the midterm so that President Trump's agenda can actually get put into place. And that's everything. I'm an ICE agent. People are screaming at me about that. And the weird thing about that is we have border. These things need to be fixed. They're being fixed now, but it takes a long time to turn that tanker around. And I hope that President Trump gets another two years with the Republican majority. I think it's incredibly important, so important that I've been out on the campaign trail with a lot of people running for office, because I really truly believe this is a super important time.
Kevin, I want to know what you're hearing, but I want to add to that. You've been very outspoken about faith and politics. Why do you think some Christians still believe that being involved politically somehow compromises their Christianity?
I don't know why they would feel that way, but I think Christianity's been bashed all the time. We look at the Muslim religion, we're not supposed to say anything bad about it. That like it's this perfect religion that people are afraid to. But I think people are afraid to because there's repercussions if you attack that religion. Christians sort of let you get away with it, and they turn the other cheek, so to speak. But I look at what's happening in my home state of Minnesota right now. I mean, I don't live there anymore, but I'm born and raised there, and all my friends are conservative. But what's wrong with that state? I mean, where's shame on you for being an ICE agent. You go out there and you're arresting people that are pedophiles, murderers, rapists, insane people, and sending them back to their home country. And people are upset about that. They want to keep these borders open. Everybody tells me we should have open borders. The first thing I ask them, I go, by the way, do you lock your house at night? And they go, oh yeah. I go, why? Why are you locking your house? Why do you lock your car doors when you go out? So apparently they think that that's going to keep them safe, but they want a wide open border and not know who these people are coming across the border. Right. I mean, Biden and company, look what they did. It was on purpose. The border czar with Kamala, idiot, they asked her if she was down there. She says, no, I haven't been to Europe either. And if she answered me that way, I'd say, what the heck does that have to do with anything? I mean, they let people just get away with the stupidest things. Is something going to happen to the $9 billion that taxpayers that, for leering centers, Somalian leering centers in Minnesota? Jim Walsh should be in prison. Where's that money? Is it coming back to the taxpayers? This stuff is crazy what we're doing out there right now. It's absolutely insane. And we need to get people to wake up to that fact. And I blame our education system and also our universities. They brainwash these people. The majority of people, unfortunately, the majority under 35 to 40 years old and younger, they think socialism and communism is a good thing. Maybe they should go live in North Korea for 6 months, or even Venezuela now, even though there's a change of regime down there. Go down there and see what that's like. Nobody's taking boats from Key West to Cuba. So wake up.
All right, both of you have sons. Does fatherhood change the conversation? Because suddenly the question isn't simply what kind of America do I want? It's what kind of America am I leaving my son? Kevin, I'll start with you and then go to Dean on that.
We're homeschool advocates. We homeschool all our kids. They're brilliant. They're awesome. They really are. Individual. We didn't have terrible teens. My kids are so good with what they do, and they're so, independent in what they do. My 25-year-old, just turned 25-year-old Braden, is out there, and he's doing such amazing work. He gets hired by people nonstop to do social media for him because he's got so many followers, and he's got the voice of the under 30-year-old crowd. I mean, he's got the ear of these people, And I think that we need, when COVID hit, 2 million more families woke up when they really looked at what public schools are doing to their children. And they said, you know what, this isn't a great babysitting service. Let's get out of here. 2 million more families are now homeschooling. And you look what these stupid school boards did. Thank God we got rid of about a dozen of the worst school boards here in the state of Florida. I mean, Dean now lives in Vegas. I mean, I had a home there for many years. I got the hell out of California, too. I left the worst governor in the country to the best governor. In fact, DeSantis and I are speaking at an event next week up in Chicago, and I'm looking forward to that. And I want to make sure he takes care of his promise before he leaves of getting rid of property tax. If you get rid of that, you're going to have a lot more people moving to Florida.
Okay, by the way, side note, transparency, Braden, your son, will be with us next week on Reawaken USA here on this program. Look forward to that. Dean, same thing to you, your son. How much of that influences what you want to see America become?
Yeah, honest truth is, even my faith and my involvement in politics all kind of stem around being a father. And the reason, I had to fight for custody of my son and have to brawl for that and give up so much of my career to do that said to me, wow, this is the most important thing without a doubt to me, because I'm adopted. I was raised by a wonderful father. And then I fought like hell to be a dad, and it was unfair and it was wrong. And I realized there's that saying, you may not be interested in politics, but I promise you politics are interested in you, because it affects everything you do from your healthcare to the economy to everything. So that got me much more involved and wanting to have and teach him and have him understand what's right and wrong. The things they were getting in school. Now I pulled him out of public school and I put him in a private school, in a private Christian school, because I wasn't enjoying what he was learning. I was seeing that I was arguing with his teachers and the curriculum, and I said, this is crazy. And then I found this wonderful Christian school, and it was just done. He was in great hands, and I said, this is what I want. And I had having that idea of choice was really important to me. And Kevin said something earlier, which I got to say something about, which is, he talked about, why do you lock your door? And it's not because you hate what's outside. It's because you love what's inside. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing with the politics. And the reason I got involved in talking about my politics and about my faith was because I realized that, you have to stand up. Who are you going to send to go do this? Send me. I'll do it. I'll talk about it because I believe it through and through. And I believe in Christian values. And I believe in the Constitution of the United States. And I want my son to have this wonderful opportunity as he gets older. He's 26 now, so and he's got a really good head on his shoulders. So yeah. I've done my job.
Yes, you have. Both of you have. You should be congratulated. Staying with that, Dean, finally, speaking of fathers and sons, you've got another project coming up called The Holy One, a faith-based golf comedy that brings Kevin back onto the screen along with Sam Sorbo. But this one's especially personal for you because you stepped behind the camera to co-direct it with your son. What's it like sharing that experience with him? And did working together as father and son change the way you approached the film?
No, working with father and son didn't change the way I approached the film. It only changed that I had my son around a lot, and that makes me really happy because I'm a family guy and I like being with my family. I'll tell you this. So the story of Holy One is first of all, if you know Kevin, he's a tremendous golfer and he loves golf. And so that was sort of the genesis of this was let's tell a story that talks about redemption. A guy who is imperfect, very imperfect, loses himself, and then finds redemption through maybe a little bit of upstairs help, if you will, that without giving anything away. It's an I love how it's coming together. I don't know if you've seen anything yet, Kevin, but I hope you haven't, because that's not supposed to happen that way. But you're fantastic in the movie. And he plays a father who finds himself down all the wrong trails, if you will, the wrong roads. And he redeems himself in the best of ways. But it doesn't, a lot of the films, it's like when Kevin asked me to come over and do God's Not Dead, which was wonderful, and Kevin produced that as well. It's not the kind of movie that bangs you over the head with scripture and such, but it shows a more organic way of how someone finds their own redemption. And I think we're all on that journey. So I think everybody can relate to this. And I'm super proud of the movie. Can't wait to get it finished. We're this close, Kevin, this close. And you are fantastic in the movie. People are going to love it. You're going to be critical of your own golf swing, because that's what golfers do. But it looks dang good to me.
All right, Kevin, we got less than a minute here. Since you're sitting right here, what's director Dean Cain like? Seems like a great way to write off a few rounds of golf.
You know what? I started directing back my Hercules episodes, and I'll tell you something right now. I look at guys like Clint Eastwood and Mel Gibson. Actors make really good directors because they understand. They learn a lot being on set all the time. I would always ask what the crew is doing and get more educated what they do. And you learn a lot by doing that. And Dean was great, and because he understands the actor's world as well. So to me, I'm always for it. And we had what I love about The Holy One, I've only seen bits and pieces because Jason told me to hold out. But what I love about it is the redemption value in the movies that I do. I try to do that because I think the world needs hope. But I also love the fact that it's got so much humor in it as well, because I love humor in pretty much everything I do.
Yeah, we all need to laugh right now. Kevin, Dean, I cannot thank you both enough for being here tonight. Thank you. So beyond the movies, the television shows, and everything you guys have accomplished throughout your careers, thank you both for standing strong for us, please. Thank you for doing that, even though doing so hasn't always been the easiest path in your industry. We all appreciate it. We all pray for you. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Cheers. God bless.
Hollywood loves us.
Yeah. We love you. We for sure love you. Be sure to follow Kevin, Sorbo, and Dean Cain across their social media platforms. Keep up with their latest films, projects, and appearances, and everything else they are working on. Let me leave you with this tonight. We started with two fictional heroes, but here's the thing about heroes. They make a choice. They see something that matters, and they decide not to walk away. America doesn't need Christians waiting for somebody else to save this country. We don't need a cape. We don't need superhuman strength. We need conviction. We need to pray. We need to know what to believe. We need to know what the candidates believe when election day comes, and you need to vote. You can be a hero if you'll go out and vote and take someone with you. Greg Stevens for Unclassified. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.